The thunder of thousands of hooves shakes the earth. Through the foggy morning mist, a lone figure emerges, a fire of merciless ambition burning in his eyes. He is neither a king nor an emperor, but when his name is whispered, even mighty Rome trembles. This man is the nightmare of Europe. This man is Attila the Hun. Today we bring you 10 unbelievable facts about him. Fact number 5 will leave you speechless. If you're ready, let's dive into the shadow of the most feared leader in history. Fact 1. He never wanted the title of king. Attila was a leader who shook the very foundations of Europe, yet he never called himself a king or emperor. Titles meant nothing to him. He knew that true power wasn't in names, but in the fear etched into people's hearts. He simply called himself leader of the Huns, and with that humble title, he made empires kneel. Roman emperors wrote him respectful letters, begging for peace and offering gold each year. For Attila, power wasn't about thrones or crowns. It was in the unquestioning obedience his presence commanded. He wore no royal title, yet became one of the rare men whose name alone shaped history. Fact 2. He killed his own brother. Attila's rise to power was paved with steel and soaked in blood. But the most painful step was the one that stained his hands with his own brother's blood. To rule alone, he made the ruthless decision to eliminate the one closest to him, his brother Bleda. They had once ruled the Hunnic Empire together, launching joint invasions across Europe. But Attila craved sole control. Inside, he battled with himself. But he chose. There would be no shared rule. One leader, one empire. This moment showed the depth of Attila's cold determination and strategic mind. By sacrificing his brother, he prevented internal division and forged the Hun army into a single, unstoppable force. It wasn't just a murder. It was the end of an era. The silence after Bleda's death would soon become the echoing terror of all Europe. From that day on, Attila stood alone. A man who had become a living symbol of how far one soul could go to seize destiny. Fact 3. He was the nightmare of the West. History has seen many enemies of Europe. Vikings, the Spanish Inquisition, even the Black Death. But none struck terror like Attila the Hun. His army didn't arrive like ordinary invaders. They came like a storm sent from the heavens, fast, merciless, and unstoppable. Roman chronicles called him Deus Flagellum, the Scourge of God, because people believed his coming was divine punishment for a sinful world. Cities were burned to ashes, lands plundered, and roads littered with bodies. Some towns surrendered the moment his name was heard, not because they respected him, but because no one survived those who resisted. He was the West's nightmare. But this nightmare didn't come in dreams. It arrived in broad daylight. Attila never sat on an emperor's throne, yet ruled over the fears of emperors. His name is carved into Europe's memory, not just as a conqueror, but as the embodiment of fear itself. Fact 4. He was once an ally of Rome. Today, we remember Attila as the destroyer of Rome, but few know that once, he was actually Rome's ally. At the time, the Roman Empire was crumbling, exhausted by endless wars with barbarian tribes. Desperate Roman leaders turned to the Huns for help and struck a deal with Attila. His armies fought Rome's enemies, even receiving payment from the empire for their support. For a while, Attila was Rome's sword, but swords can turn, and he was watching. He saw Rome's gold, its corruption, its decay. He waited, and when the time was right, that alliance became one of the most dangerous rivalries in history. Yesterday's ally had become tomorrow's fire. But Attila never betrayed anyone. He simply had bigger plans. Inside him was a storm waiting to wipe empires off the map. Sometimes the most dangerous enemy is the one who once shared your bread. Rome would learn that lesson far too late. Fact 5. A Roman princess proposed to him. Sometimes history hides empires behind a single sentence. Take this one. Princess Honoria of Rome proposed to Attila the Hun. It sounds like a scandal, but behind it lies a desperate cry that shook the foundations of an empire. Honoria, the sister of Western Roman Emperor Valentinian III, was trapped in a gilded cage. She was to be married off against her will. And in a moment of rebellion, she did the unthinkable. She secretly sent her ring to the most feared man in the known world, Attila, and asked to marry him. This wasn't a love letter, it was a scream. Come save me. But Attila didn't see romance. He saw opportunity. He thought, so the sister of the emperor wants me? That means I deserve the empire too. He declared himself her rightful fiancé and demanded half of the Roman Empire as her dowry, especially the rich Balkan provinces. Rome refused, but it was too late. Honoria's letter had given Attila a perfect excuse to invade. With one ring and a desperate message, a princess had unknowingly invited a storm. She wanted to be saved, but the man she called was not a savior. He was fire. And love? There was no love, no wedding, no happy ending. Only a dangerous letter that changed the fate of Europe forever. Fact 6. He almost took Paris throughout history. Many tried to conquer Paris, but few know that centuries before Napoleon or Hitler, the first great terror to threaten the city was Attila the Hun. In the year 451, Attila's armies flooded into France like a tidal wave. Village after village fell, burned or surrendered. As he pushed north, panic reached Paris. The Scourge of God was only days away, and it seemed nothing could stop him. Legend says that in that moment of terror, one woman stood up. Genevieve, a devout young woman who would later become Saint Genevieve. She urged the people not to flee but to pray and resist. And then, a miracle. Just as Attila neared the gates of Paris, he changed course. He turned away, marching east toward the Battle of the Catalonian Plains instead. No one knows exactly why. Strategy? Weather? Divine intervention? But one thing is certain. Paris felt the breath of a nightmare. If Attila had chosen otherwise, Paris would have burned. Fact 7. He was never defeated. Attila took part in dozens of battles. Yet throughout history, he was never officially defeated. He fought against the Roman Empire, Germanic tribes, and the Byzantines in the east. But not once did he surrender or have his army completely destroyed. On the contrary, his enemies preferred to negotiate with him rather than fight, because they knew Attila could not be stopped, only appeased. The Battle of the Catalonian Plains in 451 is sometimes shown as the moment he was halted. But even in this battle, although Attila's army retreated, it was not defeated. The following year, he attacked again and advanced deep into Italy. Attila's style of warfare was terrifying. He won by striking fear into the hearts of his enemies. His name alone was enough for cities to open their gates and for nations to flee without resistance. To stand against such a leader was simply suicide. His undefeated record was not only due to the strength of his army, but also his ability to control human psychology. He defeated the enemy in their minds, before the battle even began. For this reason, history remembers him not only as a commander, but also as a symbol, the symbol of invincibility. Fact 8. He loved to live simply. Imagine a man, a commander who destroyed cities, made emperors tremble, and was offered treasures in his name. Attila possessed vast lands, countless riches, and endless armies. If he wished, he could have built palaces and made himself appear greater than Roman emperors. But Attila believed not in luxury, but in simplicity. He chose to live like his people. He lived in a simple tent and used a wooden stool instead of a throne. His clothing was ordinary, leather, wool, clean, and plain, because he knew that comfort weakens a man. According to legend, his meals were simple too: meat, milk, and bread. He did not wear gold or jewelry, nor did he like to show off. This showed how humble, yet how dangerous he truly was, because his power didn't come from wealth or outer grandeur, but from his willpower and fearlessness. What mattered to him was not a palace, but being free in the steppes. His behavior confused his enemies and inspired deep respect in his followers, because such a commander lived the same lifestyle as his people. Attila was not a ruler. He was a part of his people. His soldiers admired him, because he was one of them. He looked down on no one, sat at the same table, froze in the cold together with them. Fact 9. The death of Attila, silent, mysterious, and sudden. The world believed Attila would die on the battlefield. with arrows flying through the sky and swords clashing in a storm of chaos. After all, he was the most feared man on earth. Surely such a warrior deserved an epic end, but fate had something else in store. In the year 453, Attila was celebrating his wedding night with his new bride, Ildico. The evening was filled with music, feasting, and celebration. No one knew it would be his last. When attendants entered his tent the next morning, they froze in shock. Attila was dead. No blood, no wounds, no signs of struggle, just silence. It was as if the world had quietly taken him, without warning, without violence. Some say it wasn't a natural death at all. Was he poisoned? Did Ildico kill him while he slept? If so, why? Was it a political order, a personal vendetta, or simply fear, a sudden death on his wedding night? Was it coincidence? Or did someone somewhere fear his power so deeply they chose silence over war? Even in death, Attila didn't give his enemies the satisfaction of victory. He died not on the battlefield, but in his tent, leaving behind no scars, no glory, just questions. His death only added to his myth, because sometimes the way a man dies speaks louder than the way he lived. Attila's life was filled with fear and awe, but his death, it was wrapped in silence, in secrets he took to the grave. Fact 10. Attila's grave, lost forever. To this day, no one knows where Attila the Hun is buried. According to legend, the slaves who buried him were executed immediately after the funeral, to ensure the location of his grave remained a secret. Some say he was laid to rest in 3 coffins, one of gold, one of silver, and one of iron, buried deep beneath a riverbed. But these are only stories. No one has ever found solid proof. No grave, no remains, just mystery. One of the most terrifying rulers in history lies somewhere beneath the earth, and no one knows where. Attila's life was a legend, a mystery, and a symbol of unstoppable power. Leaders like him are born once in 1,000 years. A man who could not be conquered, a ruler who rejected palaces, and a shadow whose presence lingers even after death. If stories like this, hidden legends, untold truths, and forgotten powers fascinate you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like the video, and share your thoughts in the comments below. We bring the past to life so that today makes a little more sense. See you in the next video.